Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Backlot Banter, where today we're presenting you with a new special type of video. We're
Yeah.
experimenting here a little bit with the
Oh.
YouTube video format.
That's what college is for.
That's right. Tucker, today we're taking an important step. So we're analyzing the star power
Correct.
of this summer's blockbuster movie stars.
Yeah.
Or, not necessarily blockbusters.
Yeah.
We got scream queens. We got blockbuster action stars.
Yeah.
I
And a couple romance
We
movies.
got a couple
in there.
romance movies. Basically, if you are a movie star in a notable release this summer, we are tracking how your star power is impacted by
Yes.
this newest release.
Because we know you're all watching.
Yes.
We're talking directly to the
Ryan
host
Gosling,
of
Tom Hardy, Mia Goth.
Yeah.
You're all watching.
all our friends,
Uh-huh.
all our personal friends of the show. Tanner, you came up with this idea
Yeah.
because we're trying to do a little bit more tier listy, general discussion sort of
Yes.
things, and the summer movie season is wrapping up now.
Mhm.
I would say the last movie of consequence of the summer has released, an
Yeah.
Alien Romulus, and we are including
Sorry to The Crow. Sorry to Blink Twice.
Yeah.
Sorry to Afraid and Reagan.
Yeah. But we're going to be talking about, I think, 30 different actors today.
Yes.
And ranking them from S, A, B, C, D on how their performance in this movie, whatever movie released this summer, how well that movie did, how it was received,
Mhm.
how well their performance in it was received, how that will impact their ability to get work going forward, the
big word-
popularity,
The
things
big
like that.
word here is trajectory.
Ah.
How is their
That's a big
trajectory?
word.
Thank you. How is their trajectory impacted by this 2024 release, or
Yeah.
rather, maybe there's a couple in there.
Yeah,
Um,
for a few.
If there is a movie that came out before the summer, we'll briefly touch on it. If
Yeah.
they have a movie coming out later this year, we'll briefly touch on it. But largely, this is the summer stars. Okay.
Yeah.
The summer of stars.
So let's start off with whatever's first on here.
Uh-huh.
Chris Pratt.
Okay.
Chris Pratt, not in a live action movie this summer,
Right.
but he has actually been for a decade now a
Yeah.
very prominent voice actor in children's movies, and he was the voice of Garfield the cat
Garfield.
in the Garfield movie this
Mhm.
year. And this is an interesting one because I think Garfield just adds to his pile. It adds to
Yes.
his Smaug horde of like famous cartoon characters that he's voiced, and obviously that's kind of the meme of what famous cartoon character is Chris Pratt going to voice next. But Garfield was not a massive hit. It was profitable. It was
Sony's very happy with how it turned out.
Yes.
Is the bottom line of it. I mean, they made a lot more money back on it than they put into this thing. It was a sort of like, you see it's still in theaters. You're waiting
Yeah.
for Inside Out 2 to come out. Sure, take the kids to go see Garfield.
Yeah.
So Tucker, to speak precisely to Chris Pratt's star power coming off of this. Obviously, he's still a big movie star.
Yeah.
Coming on like Guardians of the Galaxy last year, but I think he's still kind of unproven outside of IP stuff. I would say.
Oh, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like something like the Tomorrow War was reasonably big for Amazon.
Yes.
For Amazon,
it was a streaming film, though.
But this theatrical release,
Mm-hmm.
he's the star draw of this film.
True.
This again, we're talking about his Smaug horde of characters and IP
Yes.
and things. I'm gonna put him in A because this movie just helps him be prominent.
Yes,
It is
I
a
think,
big IP studio movie. It's like, well, we gotta get Chris Pratt.
Uh-huh.
Like this doesn't hurt his credits. It doesn't help it a ton, but like this is above average
I
of
have
like
I have
continuous trajectory.
I have an analogy for
Okay,
you here,
all right.
Tucker. If the Super Mario Brothers movie was Chris Pratt like fucking kicking open
Yeah.
the door of being not only an action lead but also a children's movie
Yeah.
animated lead.
Well, was that not the Lego movie?
I think the Lego movie was like, hey guys, how you doing in here? I'd like to be a children's movie star too. Then Super Mario Brothers was taking the door off the
Yeah, of
hinges,
course.
and then the Garfield movie is kind of like putting a hinge under that door that's already off the hinges,
Sure,
like
not a hinge, a
sorry, a
doorstop,
doorstop, a doorstop under that door,
a wedge.
a wedge, if you
Yeah.
will. Not strictly necessary, but also doesn't hurt at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, and it helps keep it open.
Exactly.
Tanner, God, how many door analogies can we do for the rest of this video?
Let's not try and restrict ourselves.
But do you
Tucker.
agree? A.
A's fine.
Yeah.
A's fine with that. I'm
Because
fine with
this is an S tier. Like, oh my God, if we were talking Mario last year, I think
Mhm.
that would have been S for him and his trajectory. But next up is Ryan Reynolds and Tanner. I'm
Yes.
starting the bidding at S, not because
Ooh.
this movie makes him a massively bigger star. Ryan Reynolds already one of the biggest movie star draws
Mhm.
of the last decade, especially with Deadpool. But
Also, we're talking about if.
Oh, and well, and technically If as well, which is
Yes.
interesting because he is one of the very few people this summer that had two major
Mm.
theatrical studio releases. And the fact that both of them came out, I think, does help. But we're mostly talking about
Of
Deadpool
course.
and Wolverine here. And actually, the convergence of that and If is interesting because Ryan Reynolds not only massive box office star, this is his first movie to make $1 billion, I think.
Hmm.
Which obviously that being in the $1 billion club is a massive, massive boost.
Right.
But also he was all over this movie, and of course he was all over the Deadpool
Yeah.
other Deadpool movies. But the marketing of him, like you can see his sense of humor in the way the movie was
Yeah,
marketed
I mean,
and the pre-release information. And,
He's a producer. He's a writer.
Yeah.
He is the Deadpool movies at this point.
Yeah.
Like that character lives and dies
and
on
also
his word.
it's his dynamic with Hugh Jackman, who we'll get to soon.
Mhm.
The fact that they were friends for a while and their camaraderie and their dynamic is what helped this movie get made in the way that it was.
Yeah, I mean,
Deadpool and Wolverine.
From the very outset of that like teaser video where they
Yeah.
announced this, I
Mhm.
mean, it was all about
Yeah.
those two guys. And yeah, I mean, Ryan Reynolds' star power is only now lifted. Like I've at my place of employment, Tucker,
Sure.
a couple of my coworkers have been talking about like this is like the funniest movie I've seen in years.
Sure.
I loved it. I mean, one of my favorite movies I've seen in years.
Yeah.
Like these are people who don't necessarily go to the movies a whole lot, but that's kind of like the key demographic
Absolutely.
to being a
$1 billion movie.
to
Maybe
be-
one of the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time coming up.
to being one of those high-grossing movies, but also for Ryan Reynolds' star power being a household name.
Oh, absolutely.
And he was before this, but like now, I think it'll be very hard for him to let that
Yeah.
slip away.
Well, I think most people here on our list today of 30 are household names to
Sure.
a certain degree. But he is, I think he's the biggest movie star that we're going to be talking about here in terms of
Yeah,
impact on the industry of desirability.
Mhm.
Him and Chris Pratt, I think actually in some we start with two of them. I think those are the guys you want on your project
Yeah, those
to
are-
make it a smash success basically every time.
yeah. I mean, I think there are names on here that like are more recognizable simply because of longevity.
Sure.
But in terms of if you are a Hollywood studio exec and you want a leading man,
Yeah.
Pratt and probably now Reynolds above Pratt.
Yeah,
think
I would
are-
say so as
are,
well.
are definitely
Also
the guys
because
you want.
he's a producer as
Yeah,
well, and
yes.
he has his own production company, and he
Mhm.
has creative involvement, which Chris Pratt does not have.
Does Chris Pratt? He might have. They all have production companies
That's
to
true.
a certain
He
extent.
might, but it's certainly not as prominent.
No, yeah,
anyways.
yeah. He's got that Schwarzenegger money now too.
But let's go straight from Ryan Reynolds to Blake Lively.
Oh,
He started
yes.
one of the more recent summer movies,
Mhm.
but a very, very big success. And I would say that I'm going to put Blake Lively, starting the bidding, in A, because
Okay.
I think that her being the star of this film and helping to get it made and being a creative force behind it
Mhm.
and it being a big success in a genre that has not seen much success in 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a straggling example or so, but
Yeah.
like this is obviously. I think the key
We're talking
point,
about It Ends With Us, by
yeah,
the way.
the key point with It Ends With Us is that it was a big deal that they were turning this into a movie. There was a little bit of trouble production that is
Yeah.
causing a little drama now, actually. But by and large, it was a smash hit book
Yeah.
that we get Blake Lively on board, who also hasn't been a big name movie star
No.
in a decade
Yeah,
plus.
no, definitely.
and
She took a break to raise her children and
yeah,
things. Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah, of course.
Understandable. Ryan Reynolds is out there making my balls jokes or
Yes.
whatever, so someone needs to raise those kids. And now she comes back with this, where it's obviously basing itself in the popularity of that book in Colleen Hoover, being the first Colleen Hoover book to be adapted
Yes.
to the screen. And ends up being a big hit, like lots of people were anticipating it would be. I think
Yeah.
the fact that it wasn't a disappointment, and in fact ended up being sort of a surprise on top of that hype,
Mhm.
is certainly a big help to her.
Yeah,
Ne-
and even if this movie to some critics is
Mhm.
kind of mixed, it, culturally for its target audience is very much hitting
Absolutely.
the bars it needs to,
Mhm.
and it's putting Blake Lively as kind of the for now. Obviously, we're very quickly
Mhm.
coming off of it. It hasn't been very long, but she's like I would say. Maybe one of the more desirable, like, if we want to make a romance movie, you get her. She's a creative
Yeah,
force behind it.
yeah, that's a fair
She helped
point.
to write it. She helped to produce it.
I think it might be a little too early.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
think with like Reynolds, obviously you have the history with him
Sure.
over the past 5-8 years or so.
Mhm.
Lively, it's like she burst back onto the scene
Totally.
with this one.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm okay with putting her in A. I mean, I don't think B feels right to me. So
No, because this definitely helps her career
absolutely
as an on-screen presence, as
Yeah.
a star.
Yeah.
This is like one of her first like solo star. Like the other two guys that are like love interest in the
Uh-huh.
movie are way less famous than she is.
Tucker, there is a sequel to this book.
Yeah.
And I would put dollars to donuts
Yeah.
that they are going to make that sequel.
Yeah, and
I think
also
I even
there
saw a red carpet thing where they were talking to Justin Baldoni
Yeah.
about this, about making that sequel, and what he said is like, I think Blake Lively's ready to direct.
Yeah. and that would obviously make her an even bigger
Yes.
presence in Hollywood. And so yeah, I think A is perfect here.
Okay, sounds good.
Hugh Jackman up next.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Perfect.
I don't know. It's interesting because I really do think that Ryan Reynolds is the
He's the big winner out of Deadpool and Wolverine. I
Yeah.
know exactly this feeling that you
Yeah.
have, Tucker. Is that
Hugh
everyone-
Jackman probably performance-wise best part of the movie,
Everyone's
but-
saying this.
but he is not. I don't think he's any more or less famous for doing this movie
Yeah.
than he was before. I mean, he hasn't been in a major movie since Greatest Showman, I would say.
And here's what I think the point is that Ryan Reynolds is sort of diversifying. I mean, he diversified this summer with
Yeah.
something like If, which
Mhm.
wasn't a hit. I think it actually may have lost money
Yeah.
ultimately at the end of the day, but like still he is recognizable outside of things. But for better or for worse, I would say for worse, people only think of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
True.
Now he
Yeah.
has that character on lock. I mean, there's lots of discussion about how will they replace him in the MCU
Yeah.
going forward as that character, but for his star power as Hugh Jackman the man,
Mhm.
as Hugh Jacked man,
Mhm.
I think it hurts
And
him
he
a
is
little bit.
specifically a huge jacked man. in this
Correct.
movie.
I think it hurts him just a little bit to be so specifically tied to Wolverine.
Yeah. And I also think that, I mean, actually, pull this up.
Okay.
How many upcoming projects does he have lined up? Because I haven't
That's a
really
point.
heard about any.
Yeah.
And certainly not of any particular repute. I know he's being a big Broadway star
Of
at the
course.
moment, which is obviously, I think it kind of feels like he's maybe more passionate about that.
And that's the joke that people have often said is that he's a song and dance man
Yeah.
who kind of got roped into being like the most iconic superhero role ever.
Yes. But I think that he's just happy to be here and happy to get the check. But
Yeah.
I don't think that
And it's a
Deadpool
hell of a
Wolverine.
check.
I don't think that Deadpool and Wolverine, even as one of the biggest movies of all time as it is like gonna make him a bigger star. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, cool, he's back as Wolverine, not
Yeah.
like, ooh, I know. I think for most of the rest, it's like I can't wait to see what they do next. It's like Hugh Jackman, you're like, he's back as Wolverine. That's so cool, but like,
Hmm.
you're not like super hungry for that next like, especially because it's not a solo movie. This is more a Deadpool movie than it is
Right.
a Wolverine movie. I'm gonna say B because I don't think
Mhm,
this
yeah.
helps or hurts him.
I don't think I think it's a good place for him right in the middle there. So
Yeah.
Tucker, you asked about Hugh Jackman's upcoming projects. He is going to be a voice in oh wait no, this is actually not an animated film. This is called Three Bags Full, a sheep detective movie coming out in 2026.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. It's a murder mystery.
Fair enough.
It's a murder mystery. He seems to be the lead in it.
Okay.
So it's got Hong Chow, Nicholas Galitzine, Molly Gordon, Emma Thompson, Nicholas Braun, some people. Apostle Paul. Oh wait, know what he's gonna be in? The Death of Robin Hood or whatever. That the Michael Sarnowski movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
Fair
gonna be
enough.
Robin Hood. So there's
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I mean, those projects are not like all right
No,
on the up and up for Hugh Jackman.
none of them are actually.
So B's final.
B is fine. Tanner, I'm going to make the exact same case for our next gentleman,
Okay.
Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
Nicolas Cage has been operating in the Nicolas Cage sphere,
Yes.
which is what 5 movies a year
Uh-huh.
that usually don't do particularly well, but everyone's like, he puts his all into them, and
Mhm.
obviously there's a little bit of behind the scenes drama of him like doing these roles like to recover from debt and things.
Yeah, I wonder if he's still doing that because it's been a while
It might be.
since that was the
Yeah, that might not
case.
be true.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say
Yeah.
Longlegs. Why I'm saying B is, I think you have to know that Nicolas Cage is the Longlegs character, is that
Mhm.
killer, to like associate with him. This is not a Nicolas Cage first and foremost movie. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, he's doing that role with like a lot of makeup. Like,
Yeah, but
I don't think it's particularly associated with him
I-
strongly.
I
to
would
be honest.
I would contend the opposite direction. Actually, I
Okay.
think that if you look at marketing materials, it was always Micah Monroe, Nick Cage,
Yeah, that's true.
and it was I think Nick Cage was a big selling point for that.
Well,
Not
here-
because
here's
he's
the difference though.
Okay.
The marketing material, yes, his name is on there.
Uh-huh.
You didn't see that
True.
that character,
True.
who's now a big meme and he's on the internet
Uh-huh.
and stuff. But and to Longlegs' credit, and why I obviously doesn't hurt his career.
Mhm.
Where I would say actually a lot of the movies he does hurt his career. It's like, oh, he just kind of
I
in
think for- I-
slop and he just kind of put out the old way or whatever the hell. Like,
I think for a while it was that. I think that we're in a Cage renaissance where he's gotten every year or every other year he's got a Nicolas Cage is in this movie that's actually taking itself kind of seriously. He's really good.
But those are
it.
uncommon.
Those are and they've only been happening in the last
Sure.
couple
Yeah,
years.
that's true.
But I think he is on the up and up a little bit, and being in a small indie budget horror film that makes $100 million worldwide, I think it helps. He was recently just cast as John Madden in the Madden biopic slash.
Ooh, you know what? I think that specific fact might push this to be A. I don't know if it's A, because here's the thing. Yeah, okay, cast him out. Okay, I'm rescinding what I just said.
Okay.
I don't think that the success of this movie changes Nicolas Cage's trajectory.
Yeah.
He's always going to be cast in mid-budget movies and occasionally something a little bit bigger. Every couple of years, like he just continues forward. He's just kind of on his track.
He is his own animal.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's not really any actor like him.
He is operating absolutely in his own singular space right now. Yeah. So I don't think how much more can Nicolas Cage grow at this stage in his career. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's yet
I think you'd have to get like an Oscar or something, or like be nominated for
a late career Oscar would be a super cool thing for Nick Cage to have. But I think that would have to also signal like a shift from where he is right now. And honestly, I like where he is right now.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. I'm perfectly happy with it. But even with Longlegs being one of the surprise hits of the summer, I don't think that this really like changes the trajectory of his career.
So I'm okay with him in B. With the implication of the caveat that like he is sort of in his own space a little bit. It's not like, well, one in hand, one in the other hand for Nick Cage and Longlegs. He is really good in that movie.
Yeah, he is good.
And I think people went to that because they're like, Nick Cage being weird, I'm in.
Yeah. But tell me what you think. Where should Maika Monroe go? Because she's the get. She is from Longlegs. Yeah. It's her and Osgood Perkins. Actually, I would say more Osgood Perkins, because I do think that people are a little more impressed as a directorial debut, quote unquote. It's not his first film, but Maika Monroe had been in some projects before.
She's sort of a low key modern era scream queen.
Yeah.
I would say It Follows.
Oh, that's true.
Let's see what else we got. The Guest, and now Longlegs. Watcher a couple years ago sort of went under the radar, but I thought was quite good. But honestly, there's something about her in this movie that I'm like, is this like a star maker?
I think that it has to help her career. I think that because she's in a $100 million grossing movie, surprise indie hit, which frankly don't happen that often. This will absolutely help her. This put her on our map, frankly. Yeah. And we're very big movie fans, and now we know the name Maika Monroe, which I would not have recognized 3 months ago. So I think I have to say A because it helps her. Like this upped her career like massively.
True,
it really did. And what is yet to be seen is how much, if she'll be getting more roles like this. I think that's the key. If they will succeed because she's in it.
If she wants to do that too, because she's been operating in this like indie horror realm for a while.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, just looking at her upcoming filmography here, they are making a sequel to It Follows.
Oh, and she's in it.
She's in it. Okay, she's reprising her role as
Did They Follow?
They Follow.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think that It Follows has also kind of taken on this interesting thing. It's like a really good like horror movie, sort of like, hey guys, have you guys heard of It Follows? This movie came out 10 years ago, but it still kind of has that reputation. Yeah. So I think that sequel could be a pretty big deal, especially if people recognize the name Maika Monroe from something like Longlegs. Yeah. So yeah, I'm okay with putting her name. Great. I'm okay with that.
Tanner, next up we have Glenn Powell. Here's an interesting one because
Glenn Powell was really the singular inspiration for me wanting to do this video.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's lots of discussion about how he is the Hollywood new guy.
Yeah, totally, and I think deservedly so.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's one of my favorite just guys in general. Repping Austin, repping UT Austin. Going back there, good for him. Getting that education.
He's getting that degree.
But
maybe he can do something with his life.
What do we think about Twisters specifically? Because this is him proving himself as a action movie leading role.
Yes.
He had been supporting roles in action movies before. I believe it was Top Gun Maverick that helped put him on our map specifically. But I think that it's Anyone But You into Twisters that really makes him the succeeding guy.
That's why he's the big time.
And the fact that he can cover both is very, very important. He's not getting shoehorned into one or the other. Is he S? Is
I think
Glenn Powell S tier?
I think he's got to be S.
Yeah.
I think the twist
Oh.
of success.
Also Hitman.
Yes, and Hitman.
Yeah.
Hitman was like a low key. It was like a primer, like a
Yeah,
Netflix
totally.
primer for twisters.
But that movie was very big on Netflix.
It was.
And everyone watching that was like, this guy can act.
Yeah, I think he's a super exciting star right now, because he was sort of brought up in this Linklater like Austin scene where he's not necessarily tied to only wanting to do the biggest things. He can stretch out a little bit. He can do some weirder things like a Hitman, but also he can be quite conventional in a Twisters, in a Top Gun Maverick, in an Anyone But You, and that conventional movie star thing is what a lot of people were talking about. You know, sort of lambasting Hollywood for not having those guys anymore.
Yeah, and now with him and Timothy Chalamet and like building up the careers of some of the other actors that we're talking about here today, I do think that a new crop is really starting to come where people will watch a movie for them, and I think Glenn Powell is one of those. What'll be really exciting is to see. I think his career will expand down two paths. I think that much like we know about him searching for other romantic comedy scripts to do.
Yes,
I think he's going
Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney saying that we're looking for other films to do together.
Yes, that he will be more of a creative and producer, like choosing his projects, which I don't think was necessarily the case for the ones that we've just seen him be big in. And I also think that he will probably within the next year be cast. I look at what's the biggest movie he has coming up.
Okay, so
I think he's yet to be cast as the lead in like a big franchise thing that would help him put him on the level of Chris Pratt, Ryan Gosling.
So what I think it's also important that Glenn Powell do not overextend himself. The last thing you want, I think, is to be overexposed as a movie star. You want people.
He's perfectly exposed at the moment.
I think so.
Every couple months, you get a good Glenn Powell.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of what you want. You don't want everyone to be like another Glenn Powell movie.
But he also doesn't have one coming out imminently, which I think helps.
Yeah. He apparently has something called The Best Man's Ghost. Oh, that's a podcast series. Fuck you, IMDb. All right, so upcoming films. This was just confirmed. I think this is the most recent confirmation. The Running Man from Edgar Wright.
No, that was he was casting that like.
I think it was just recently confirmed. Is kind of what I was saying. It was always like, Edgar Wright might be doing a Running Man. He might be doing Barbarella. Funny enough, Barbarella has Sydney Sweeney attached, and Running Man has Glenn Powell attached. So I think it was recently confirmed that Edgar Wright's like, that's the next movie I'm doing. Is Running Man with Glenn Powell.
And we'll see how big that is. If they position it as a blockbuster reaction sort of thing, it's possible, but also that's not really Edgar Wright's thing anymore.
I think Edgar Wright's trying to carve out a little bit of a new niche, especially with this talk of rebooting or remaking Barbarella and Running Man. These movies that Edgar Wright is interested in, getting big movie stars in them. Like Glenn Powell obviously will be operating in the shadow of Arnold Schwarzenegger with this remake. So
big shoes to fill.
Big shoes.
Yeah. And he's not as big.
Yeah.
Physically.
It looks like he's also. Now this excites me. I don't know how much this will excite other folks, but he is in a film called Monsanto, which is a legal crime drama.
Okay.
Coming out with him, Laura Dern, Anthony Mackie.
Okay.
It is directed by John Lee Hancock, who did The Little Things recently. Not a big fan, but
he did The Founder back in the day.
That's true. He did. I think though that if this turns out to be,
and he did The Blind Side.
Yes, he did The Blind Side. I think if Monsanto turns out to be okay, at least I think it's another like notch in Glenn Powell's like trying to return to that typical leading man thing, where it's like he can do action movies, he can do rom-coms, he can do legal dramas, thrillers.
Guess whose shoes that's following?
Who's that?
Tom Cruise.
Exactly that.
where he can do.
It's almost like Tom Cruise might be a little bit of a mentor for Glenn Powell. Do you think? And then of course he has like Top Gun 3 is in development.
And guess what? He's going to be a much bigger part of that movie. Yes. They're working on that script right now. I was like, how many scenes can we get in?
Yeah. So
I would not be surprised if Miles Teller's role gets diminished and he gets brought up.
Oh, poor Miles Teller. It's kind of sad to think that like Miles Teller for a moment might have thought that he was gonna be like the Cruise prodigy. But no, he's just hanging out on boats now, I guess. So good for him. So is Glenn Powell the S-iest S that we're gonna have on this list, Tucker?
Potentially. Yeah. Okay. We'll go through the rest of them and see.
Who's next?
Next up is Cate Blanchett. Now, every movie that we've talked about so far has been a hit. Has been a hit critically and financially. All of these have been smash hits across the board. Now we're going to be talking about a film that is neither, which is Borderlands. And Cate Blanchett being the lead star of this, one of the most acclaimed actors we're talking about today. This is an interesting one because Borderlands being a bad movie and a financial failure does not mean that Kate Blanchett, she probably has a bunch of roles still coming up
Yeah,
in,
I'll check
in
that.
more Tar style things.
Yes. Tar style.
Yeah. So it's not going to hurt her getting work. It's not going to mean that people don't think she's a great actress.
Mhm.
But this has to at least be C, because this
Yeah.
hurts her track record.
I think it does.
This is I think easily the worst received movie of her career.
Little behind the scenes baseball here.
Yeah.
Talking about this is a new video format, like we said at the top. So
Yeah.
we were trying to talk about this a little bit. So we discussed Kate Blanchett in Borderlands, and I'm like, it's not like she won't get work off the back of this, but I think it's more of a matter of
it's a smudge.
It's a big smudge. If you look at Kate Blanchett's career, she's coming off of a big high with Tar, exactly, and has some more things coming out. She's in a Soderbergh movie coming out next year.
Oh.
She's in a I think Corone.
She was also in Where Did You Go, Bernadette?
Yeah. I think Corone is doing this HBO Max series.
Oh, okay.
That's
so
coming
big
out
names
this year.
still like her,
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously. But like you look back at this era of Kate Blanchett's career where she was sort of taking off, like coming into her own, and you're like, oh yeah, and then they released Borderlands in that same time too.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be, I don't think people won't hire her off
No.
the back of this, but I think this is maybe the last time that Kate Blanchett gets put in a movie like Borderlands.
Yeah.
And she probably prefers that too.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, of
I'm not
course.
gonna lie.
I don't think she'll choose another project like this.
I don't think so either.
And even though I thought that she was one of the best parts of that movie, and she
Mhm.
proved to me that she could be an action lead, I think that this movie being the kind of stinker that it is means
Mhm.
that even if she could continue to do that, it's not like that's a draw for her or for the audience,
Yeah.
really. I mean, the unfortunate fact is that middle-aged and older women have a harder time getting roles in
That's
major
true.
films,
That's
and I
true.
like that the creative team behind Borderlands placed her at front and center. I think that is a good diversification, but it's also not working.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really seem like audiences want that. So,
See.
yeah, see.
All right, Tucker. Who's next? I see.
Next
him.
up is Zachary Levi in Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Ooh.
And here's another one that we were excited to talk about because you saw Harold and the Purple Crayon.
I did.
Zachary Levi, in the last few weeks, again, that movie came out very recently,
Mhm.
has been all over social media for interviews that he's been giving, and he's been trying his best on his Instagram and social media to hype up the movie and get
Yeah.
people to go see it.
After its release, I might add, not typically the time you want to be plugging
good
your
point.
movie.
Well, Tanner, he also did the exact same thing for Shazam and Fury of the Gods about 18 months ago.
Yeah.
But this movie is an across-the-board failure, and
Yeah.
especially coming off the back of Shazam Fury of the Gods being a major underperformer,
Mhm.
especially compared to its predecessor. His star power has just been hurt and hurt and
Yep.
hurt, and this is a death nail.
Yes.
I mean, he
Well,
has
this-
been, especially, actually, I think it really was Shazam Fury of the Gods, like,
Uh-huh.
in the way that he kind of handled that movie after
Yeah,
it didn't do well.
He did, to use a term that is hot with the kids right now. He had a bit of a crash out after Shazam: Fury of the Gods,
and
that
this
crash
is,
out has continued through Harold and the Purple Crayon
Yeah.
into him appearing on the RFK Jr. presidential campaign yacht or
yeah.
whatever.
yeah, and so obviously he's pivoting what he can of his stardom to
Mhm.
capture whatever he can, but Harold and the Purple Crayon as just a blockbuster schlock thing.
Mhm.
And it being as bad as it was, and especially being bad is not the worst thing in the world,
Yeah.
but just no one going to see it, and then him
It being
kind of whining about it.
him whining about it being a laughing stock
Yeah.
is also
That's a great word.
is the big hurt here.
I think that
is
he might be the only D we have here today.
he is D for damaged goods.
Yes.
His last two movies have flopped and become laughing stocks. He is known for going on social media and making himself a mockery after these movies do this, and he's sort of edging a little too close to like the RFK Jr.
Right-wing politics,
right
absolutely.
wing politics son a little
Yeah.
bit. That he can be a liability for studios. I think going ahead.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put him in D.
We're going on.
And next up is Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
The director and star of Horizon, an American Saga, only Chapter 1. We
As of
would
right
have
now.
actually have seen Chapter 2 by this point, or we would have seen it.
Exactly.
It's
Who's
not
to
that
say
the
how
masses
many
would
other?
have seen it. And that movie is interesting because he is the only reason that movie exists. And the
Correct.
fact that movie he gave his all to, and he has such big plans for it and wanted it to be a return to form. I have a lot of respect for Kevin Costner and what he did with that movie, even though I don't think it was very good. You can go check out a review if you want.
Yep.
But the fact that no one cared,
Yeah.
and
It's
it
tough.
wasn't Critically, it was received like mixed. It wasn't like,
it was mixed critically. I mean,
but financially, it was a massive bomb.
absolutely.
And so this hurts us. This hurts his star power.
Yeah.
Now the funny thing is, I'm gonna rescind what I just said. I think it does help his star power because it's the only time anyone's been talking about Kevin Costner in a filmmaking sense or in a theatrical film sense for 15 years.
Well, here's the thing with that.
He is more famous as a movie star right now than he has been since 2008 or something like that.
Well, here's the thing with that. So I'll speak my truth here on this, okay? Or perhaps Kevin's truth, because Kevin is a guy who's like, I don't do interviews, I don't do press or anything like that unless I have
Marcus.
Unless I have a movie coming out.
Yeah.
Is his only thing. Like he doesn't want to get caught up in the Hollywood tabloid machine at all. And from that standpoint, and this persona that he's cultivated for the over the this later part of his career, he is as close to a Nick Cage, I think, as you can get. Okay. On the rest of this list is a man who operates in his own space. This is in part a self-financed project that he is adamant is like, I don't really care how it does at the box office. Like, he's adamant about like, my fans will buy this on DVD at Walmart when it comes out there.
He might be right.
And I mean, perhaps it's cope, perhaps it's not, perhaps he knows his demographic. Who's to say? But I don't think you can put Costner in D. I think I'm gonna go for C here.
Yeah, that's
C
totally
for Costner for him. Like Horizon Chapter 2 will still come out. Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 are big old question marks right now.
I doubt it. I mean, unless he somehow still has his own funds to produce those movies, I don't think he's gonna get much of any studio backing.
Yeah,
it could be something that is funded by some of his friends, and who the hell knows. But I would be surprised if it gets a backing from a Warner Brothers or whatever next time.
I just don't think Costner's a guy who now wants to play in the typical Hollywood machine. So coming off of these flops or this flop and presumably same deal for Chapter 2, I don't know how much of Costner we'll be seeing for the rest of his career.
So C. That's good. Next up is Kaylee Spaney, who's very interesting in that I think that she is on the precipice of becoming another young star that people go to different kinds of movies to see her. And I see her in the same space I see Glenn Powell in, one of my favorite performers of the last year specifically, because in all honesty, Priscilla was the first time I ever saw her, but she did such an amazing performance in that, and then was one of the leads of Civil War, a movie that did very well earlier this year. Her performance well received, and now Alien Romulus, easily the biggest of those three movies, shows that she has this range of drama, of action, of
she's on the up and up right now. She was in an A24 indie hit, and then she was in another A24 action hit that was like, what's sort of like their big gambit on being a blockbuster studio. And now she's in a series entry, IP entry, where people are like, Kaylee Spaney's quite good in this.
And could be the root of her getting more. There could be sequels to this.
Absolutely,
the movie kind of sets up for that.
She is. The only project I know off the top of my head of hers coming up is, of course, the next Knives Out film,
which is gonna be big.
Which is always big and always a good mark on the careers of the ensemble there. So, what do we think?
Especially because the casts are so desired for those movies. It's like, when Rian Johnson, especially because remember how quickly that cast came together. It is him picking the best of the industry, and the fact that he went to her a year ago, or actually no, it was earlier this year. The movie was made very, very quickly. And went to her coming off of her being so good in Priscilla and Civil War and being like, I want you.
The Knives Out movies are interesting because I think it's clear as this is the third entry. I hope Rian Johnson continues to make more, but also he probably wants to branch out. But
I think he should.
They've gotten and gained such a notoriety amongst Hollywood and fans and everything like that it's like Rian Johnson knows who he wants, and you probably don't turn down a role in one of these.
No.
If for any other reason, then it's a fun time.
Absolutely. And you get to work with a bunch of cool people.
I think
this has another exciting cast of more up and comers this time, which I think is really cool.
I think that's cool too. There were a couple backouts of Wake Up Dead Man.
Oh, okay.
I think that was for scheduling reasons more than anything else.
So I think she's A. She's not Ryan Reynolds. She's not Glenn Powell.
No.
Because I think that this is her. This is her Top Gun Maverick. This is her big studio putting her on the map, and I think it'll help her. She's the lead of this, which is
Yeah.
big.
It's obviously not as I don't think it's gonna get like an average person to know
Yeah,
Kaylee
of
Spaney's
course.
name
Yeah,
yet,
yeah.
but for trajectory, if we're
It
tracking
definitely
out
helps that.
where she was to where she is right now,
Yeah.
I think A is just fine.
Yeah. Next up is Chris Hemsworth, and Chris
Hmm.
Hemsworth, I'm
This
gonna
is a sticky wicket.
this is sticky wicket because I think unfortunately I think B maybe.
I think B is the highest you can go. For
exactly.
Chris in Furiosa is what we're talking about.
Chris
here.
Hemsworth in Furiosa, and the interesting thing about this is that movie critically not well received. I don't think this hurts his chances. I think it helps his chances of getting more work, even if it is only as supporting roles in the future.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna be honest, I think that his fans would consider this one of his defining performances, and I'd also say that like critically and like, oh, actually he does have an interesting range.
Mhm.
This is like the most interesting thing he might have ever done.
Yeah, I mean, like you can maybe go back to like him doing Black Hat and
Sure,
Michael
sure, of
Mann,
course, yeah.
but which was also famously kind of a financial
Flop.
failure.
Very big flop.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
But Chris Hemsworth is still a star, and he's still a draw.
That's my thing, though. I think Chris Hemsworth is kind of the poster boy for
Yeah.
do the MCU movies make movie
No,
stars?
that's true.
I think him and Evans are kind of the poster boys for that right now, and I think the financial loss of Furiosa, which has been talked to death by us and others, is a semblance of that. So
That's a good point.
is Chris Hemsworth? Let me look at his upcoming projects. Does he have anything like original or anything else coming out? Like, I know that they're probably going to do another Thor film.
Maybe. I honestly don't think so.
Don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll be in the crossover
Oh, I guess
movies. But
Yeah.
I think Marvel's done with Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
I think he's done with Taika Waititi.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
And I think that audiences are kind of done with Thor. I think a fifth movie
Mhm.
would be stretching it a little bit.
Yeah,
too far.
I mean, well, we know that he's gonna be in like Secret Wars.
Well, no,
because
that's what I said. The
those-
crossover movies.
Yeah, he was literally in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. What?
the clip from
Oh,
that they show.
That's right.
That I
Yeah,
think
I
is
thought
going-
I thought that was like another Hemsworth.
Oh, it could have been a joke. I don't. There was. This is Deadpool and Wolverine talk, but the first shot of it, I was like, "Is that Luke Hemsworth?" And then the second shot, I was like, "Is that Chris Hemsworth?"
Well, wouldn't he be on the cast list?
I don't know.
I don't-
Well, I'll have to
We'll
look.
think about that later.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
that barely matters.
upcoming projects.
Of course, he was already going to be in those anyway.
Yeah, upcoming projects for Chris Hemsworth. He's in Transformers 1 coming out.
Well, that's an interesting one.
Sort of a Pratt
Yeah,
situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he's rumored to be in this thing that's in production, the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover.
Oh,
If they're sort of positing him as like Peter Cullen's getting old,
yeah,
Chris
needs to be a
Hemsworth
voice
is
actor.
if
Yeah.
Chris what the
Chris
fuck am I-
Pratt.
Chris Pratt. If Hemsworth is the
Yeah.
new Optimus Prime voice, that's a pretty good gig for him.
It is,
I'm not gonna lie. He's
definitely,
gonna get plenty of work off of that.
Well, plenty. We'll see how much live action Transformers movies they keep doing.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan biopic.
Oh, that's interesting.
But also,
Yeah.
they're doing a different one of those with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look into the production behind
Yes.
those two. That's a little bit
Um,
conflictory.
and
But regardless, he's got a little slight.
Extraction 3,
I mean, those are big movies for Netflix.
they are, but they're also big movies, parentheses,
for
for Netflix.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Are we gonna say
These-
C? Here's the thing.
Okay, here we go.
Furiosa did not damage his career. It being a financial failure, I don't think damages him as a performer and as a name that studios want to go to.
See, I would contend that it might.
Yeah.
I think, I would go high C, low B.
We're not even doing that though.
No, we're not doing that at all. Like, but in terms of like, I'm really on the line here. I think that if you're a studio exec, you're looking at Furiosa, you are afraid of a Furiosa situation.
That's true.
And
Yeah, where
so
we
you're-
spent $200 million on it and not enough people go to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think you're a little
You know what?
apprehensive about
Fair
it.
enough.
I think
Fair enough.
Go to C. Sorry, Chris. I love you.
And let's just jump to Anya Taylor-Joy.
Okay, let's jump
as
in.
well, because I think if you make that same critique of Chris Hemsworth,
hmm
I think you have to make that same critique of Anya Taylor-Joy.
Okay.
The interesting difference being she has already established herself as someone who is a draw in a wider variety of projects. This was one of her first starring roles in like a blockbuster sort of
Mhm.
thing. It proves that she's not a blockbuster level draw.
Yep.
But but she has been in enough smaller stuff to where she She's not as much of a household name as Chris Hemsworth is,
Uh-huh.
but what do you, I think actually her being the star of this movie though,
Mhm.
I think does prove that studios want her.
I think the key.
So maybe it's B for
I'm
her.
gonna go. I think so. I think the keyword here again, Tucker, is trajectory. Chris Hemsworth had a longer way to fall.
course, yeah.
He had much more to prove with Furiosa than Anya Taylor-Joy does. She
I don't know if that's true.
Sorry, maybe different things to prove.
Okay,
Chris Hemsworth was. I think he is hurt more by that falling down because he's fucking Thor. He's been in
Yeah,
billion-dollar
that's true,
movies.
yeah.
He has a trilogy under his name.
And now he's a supporting character in a flop.
Exactly. Anya Taylor-Joy, I think there was a little bit of inflation on her. Okay, obviously George Miller handpicked her for this role. He was super excited to have her on board and all that. But
Years ago.
years ago. But I think it's more of a thing of Anya Taylor-Joy is still on the rise, and I think this was a bit of a deal of maybe we were trying to catapult her a little bit too quickly.
Sure.
I was just looking at her upcoming projects. I mean, The Gorge is like a Scott Derrickson thriller horror movie.
Okay.
I think
That's her speed.
that's where she needs to operate
That sounds
still
great.
at this point. Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about it right now, but The Gorge has like a fucking killer synopsis,
Oh, okay.
like a
Cool.
killer
Well,
plot.
Make sure of that later.
Yeah.
Like screenshot on your phone so you don't forget that.
Okay, sounds good. I'll screenshot that.
So yeah, B's fine for her.
Yeah.
Next up is Jack Black, and Jack Black I think is the one coming out of Borderlands
Mhm.
that gets damaged the least
Sure.
because
His face isn't on it.
well, his face isn't on it, but he also did the assignment he was given for
True.
this. And what's kind of cool about Jack Black in the moment is that he's building a new renaissance of a career
Mhm.
as
The
the
video game
supporting
guy.
character in video game movies. And obviously, this movie certainly obviously smaller than Mario,
Mhm.
and be a lot smaller than Minecraft coming out next year.
Mhm.
But he is much like Chris Pratt. He's putting himself back on the list of draws of a voice actor for even like kids recognize him.
Yeah.
We did that back in the day because he was in Kung Fu Panda, which also
Right.
Kung Fu Panda also this summer.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that.
Oh, it was spring.
It
March.
was, but
yeah,
leading into summer.
exactly.
Um,
I think though, like obviously he's like
but
Jack
the
Black is-
highest you go for this is B though,
yeah.
because Borderlands
It's Borderlands.
Borderlands doesn't help his career.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. But it also doesn't hurt. I think
It doesn't hurt.
so. B
Yeah.
like right in the middle is exactly where he wants to be.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
in this movie, not doing well doesn't really matter to him
Mhm.
because he's smashed in the middle of fucking Mario and Minecraft.
two movies that one movie that has make $1 billion and one movie that probably will make $1
Probably
billion
will,
dollars.
yeah.
And then a sequel to Mario which will make another $1 billion.
Multiple sequels to Mario.
Exactly.
And spin-offs.
And spin-offs
He,
and all
he's
this.
going to be Bowser for the next 15, 20 years. Dude. Until you're 90.
Till you're 90, Jack Black, and he loves it. Skip it, boom, bam, da, you know what he does.
Yes.
All right, what's up
Next up is Scarlett Johansson.
Okay, this is
star
interesting.
of Fly Me to the Moon.
Yeah.
One of the summer's biggest flops.
What are the summer's biggest? Ask somebody about that movie, and they go, "Huh?"
Yeah, one of the biggest. Huh? I think this hurts her career because, and so I think it's not D. She's not Zachary Levi.
No.
But I think the fact that no one cared is the
Yeah,
biggest.
that's tough.
Is the biggest damning thing.
It's really tough because, like,
Especially for her.
it's her and Tatum in this thing that had a $100 million budget. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more conventional in terms of like it's a rom-com sort of comedy thing.
Rom-com.
A rom-com. It's a period drama, or not
Mhm.
period drama, but like a period comedy kind of thing, and just nothing.
Yeah.
Like this is fucking Apple not advertising their movie syndrome big time. So I'll look at Scarlett Johansson's upcoming movies. I want to see if she can be on the rebound because she is in this moment where we've been talking about a little bit where she is kind of carefully handpicking her projects a little bit. She is not in 2 movies a year, 3 movies a year.
Definitely not.
She was one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood for the past decade.
Yeah.
And it is now post Black Widow, post MCU, where she can be a little bit adrift. I think she's maybe trying to find her niche again.
And I think it's okay, but I think she's on the downward trend, and that is fine
Oh, hey.
because she spent 15 years at the top of the industry.
Yeah.
What do you okay?
Transformers 1 again. She's also in
that's
that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
Wait, Jurassic World next year.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That'll help a lot. That'll help a
hope so.
ton.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because that's going to be a big movie.
Yes.
You know who advertises their movies? Universal.
Universal tends to advertise their films. I mean, yeah, she's got a couple of things that don't. That's her like.
Is she like the
blockbuster
female
thing.
lead in the?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I think
So
it's
yeah.
her and Mahershala Ali.
Oh, cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So is she the lead? Then?
It
Is
looks
a-
like she's the lead.
Oh, I like that even more.
I'm digging it.
First female-led Jurassic movie.
True.
Yeah.
True. She's in Wes Anderson's next film, so
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
But this is
Fly Me to the Moon. How
this
does
is
it
the
impact her
biggest dip
trajectory?
that she's had, I think, in a while. Because
I-
usually it's like, okay, Asteroid City,
Mhm.
she's very good in that movie. It comes out and it does what it's supposed to do.
Mhm.
Actually, very surprise hit in 2019, which is post Endgame.
Mhm.
Both Jojo Rabbit and Marriage Story.
Yes.
Like that is a crazy year.
Two
for
Oscar
her.
nominations for her in
Yeah.
that year.
But
So yeah.
since then, it's been she's doing in the roles that she's been given.
Mhm.
The movies are doing what they need to.
Yeah.
This is the first time where it's like this missed the mark.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to pin it on her, so that's why
No,
I'm
it's
okay
not
with
her fault. It's Apple's
Cursing,
fault.
like, are we doing C or B?
I think this hurts her trajectory.
Okay,
though.
I think, yeah, I mean,
I think she can pop back up next summer.
Yeah,
I think she'll be A next summer.
Okay.
When we see the Jurassic movie.
Yeah.
If it comes out next summer.
if it comes out next summer, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. Like, I just don't know how much a Fly Me to the Moon will be a black mark on her career as opposed to
it's not a black mark. No.
as opposed to like a forgettable. Oh yeah, that movie didn't do very well. Whatever.
Well, exactly, but I would say it puts her in a very similar position to Chris Hemsworth. Of like they're both going to
yeah.
be getting work,
Yeah, that's fair.
and she's certainly the one that I think survives a little bit better for
Mhm.
this. But we also got to pick and choose. Like
Yeah.
if we're talking about B as it doesn't hurt their career, this
Mhm.
one or their trajectory, this one dips it a little bit.
Okay, no, I see what you mean,
Yeah.
and I can get on board with that.
Next up is Joseph Quinn.
Mm.
Joseph Quinn, co-lead supporting actor of Quiet Place Day
Yes.
One, and this is an interesting one because this is the first time I cognizantly recognized
Mhm.
Joseph Quinn. But the reason I cognizantly recognized him and logged that is because he was cast as Johnny Storm,
Right.
and so next summer
Right.
he'll be A. But I think B is interesting because this does help his career. Him being in this well-received movie and being one of the main characters of that movie, very very prominent, does help his career. But he's not. Well, I don't know. I think if we have Michael Monroe in A, we got to put Joseph Quinn in A.
Or do
as
we
well.
do Lupita Nyong'o in A? Because
Well, I
she
think
is.
both of them.
I think Lupita is more the face of Quiet Place than Quinn is.
Sure, but why can't we have both in A?
I don't know. I just think if we're talking about his trajectory off of this movie, people are going to be talking more about Lupita and like her. She's back. Like she has this movie that was a financial hit again after maybe she's not being served at the Best Buy Hollywood.
Mhm.
Joseph Quinn, I think there's again something on the horizon that we can see that is going to be much bigger for him.
Yeah.
And he is second on the cast list here. He is not the selling face of
No, that's
of
definitely
Quiet Place.
Yeah.
So
So do you think it's B? But again, if B doesn't hurt or help their career, this does help his career.
okay. Yeah, we'll go A. We'll go A.
And then we can just put Lupita Nyong'o also in A because we kind of talked about her as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Really cool moment for her career. We were
Yes.
really looking forward to this movie as she's an actress that we both love, and
Mhm.
giving her the lead in a summer blockbuster
I
film
wanna
is.
look up what's Lupita doing next?
I don't care. I'll see it.
That-
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
But yeah, I like that movie a lot,
Mhm.
and she's definitely the big takeaway from it. But
All these people.
the Wild Robot, yeah,
all these people got a live action movie, then they're voicing a robot.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Otherwise, not a whole lot else. It looks like, but hopefully,
This
some more
helps her
things get
work.
announced.
Yeah, hopefully this helps
Mhm.
her get work. Next up is Will Smith. This is an interesting one. This
First,
absolutely helps his career.
I think this is earlier in the video talk. He's the biggest name on this list.
Overall,
Yeah.
sure.
I
Because you
think
mentioned
that's
like the history.
Yeah, I think that is uncontestable that Will Smith is the biggest movie star
Fair
on
enough.
this list.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say Ryan Reynolds is a bigger name right now.
No, I mean,
More desirable name right now.
well, desirable or recognizable, I think, are two different things.
Desirable? Well, I think they're about on par currently.
Sure.
But also, well, if I want to compare them,
Okay.
I think Ryan Reynolds has more room to grow.
Yeah.
I don't think he's reached
Will
his.
Smith has plateaued a little bit.
Yeah.
He had a dip for a couple of years.
And this he has to at least go an A here.
Yeah.
He's certainly not S because this even though his peak was 20 years ago.
Exactly. His peak was like, exactly like 2005
Yeah.
or whatever.
And this is like basically the only prominent thing outside of Aladdin and Bad Boys for Life that he's done in the last 10 years.
Well, we're talking what of Emancipation.
What of it? But I do think that this movie being well received and being very popular.
Sorry, I was looking at his upcoming projects. He has 45. Those are producer credits.
Oh,
sorry,
shit.
he's got upcoming. Let me go to actor. Sorry.
But I'm going A for Will Smith because even though I think that he's still not the biggest name right now that studios are looking to work with.
Yeah, but I'll take the opposite opinion there a little bit, or maybe not the opposite, but I will say that if you're a studio and you're looking at Will Smith and you can get and afford Will Smith, you're gonna get Will Smith.
That's a good point. So is he S?
I think Bad Boys Ride or Die kind of proves that
people
still fucking love Will Smith.
Yeah,
I might put him in S just because
no, that's fair.
Especially because what did he have before that? What before Bad Boys Ride or Die and between Bad Boys for Life, like there was a little bit of a gray period where like what was Will Smith doing?
Yeah. Getting an Oscar win?
Getting an Oscar win, yes, but also that's tainted.
Well, of course it's tainted, but like
the fact that he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, is a bigger cultural moment than him getting the Oscar.
Oh, absolutely. Than King Richard.
In general. But I think this is a moment where you're like, Will Smith, he's back on the up and up. Like he's still maintaining the fucking king of Hollywood crown a little bit.
Here's the only other difference, and I think why, even though obviously Will Smith, one of the biggest stars ever, is still proven to be a box office draw in that way. The reason I think in my mind, have him a little bit lower than Glenn Powell and Ryan Reynolds, who I'll have as the S tier, is he's not in multiple things right now.
Yeah.
Both of these guys, we are seeing produce and be hired for multiple things and show up in a wider variety of things. The last Will Smith movie I saw was King Richard 3 years ago.
Yeah. Will Smith, he's 60 years old.
Of course.
Like, he's older. He doesn't want to be doing 3 movies a year. He is producing a lot. Like I just said, he has 45 upcoming things that he's producing. So that's kind of his bag right now. He's like the more advanced version of like a Johansson or ideally like a Hemsworth or something, where he's like, I'm older, I'm slowing down, I'm gonna handpick, I'm also gonna get paid a lot for any movie that I'm doing. So that's why he's not as maneuverable as like a Powell or even Reynolds.
Of course. So S for him.
S. Okay. I think you always have to put Smith in S unless because. He's got like fucking I Am Legend 2 whenever that comes out. That'll be a big deal.
Yeah.
People.
I hope it will be. It might be.
I think it will. I think it will.
Yes.
Because of Will Smith. I think that Bad Boys Ride or Die, like I already said, proves that people will go out to see him. People will return. It's not just a big opening weekend for that movie. It is people returning to the theater again and again, holding it out well. Will Smith is still a name. He is still beloved by the American moviegoer.
Yeah. And we also specifically chose not to include Martin Lawrence on this list because really the only thing he's done of note in the last 10, 15 years is these 2 Bad Boys movies. And he's good in those movies. I like Martin Lawrence, but he's honestly not a movie star at the moment.
No. Like, if he was on the list, he'd be in, like, B because he's like, I guess it was no real change for him.
Next up is...
Daisy Edgar Jones.
Jesus,
we got a lot of names flying in this episode.
Daisy Edgar Jones is interesting because I think that she's A.
Okay.
Because there was an article a couple weeks ago about the fact that there are a new crop of younger female actors in Hollywood where a studio will greenlight a project if they are attached, and Daisy Edgar Jones is one of those.
Yeah.
And Twisters is definitely the biggest thing that she's gotten so far. But she operates in a similar space to Glenn Powell and Kaylee Spaney. She's done a couple of things over the last couple of years that has helped continually put her on the map, and we saw her in Where the Crawdads Sing, which was a actually surprising hit.
Exactly.
And we liked her.
Sort of the It Ends With Us of its year.
I mean, like a August, late July, like kind of drama movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on a book. Based on a bestseller,
yes.
and really became prominent because of that fact.
And geared towards a female audience.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the fact that She's not S. S is really hard to get
Yep.
into.
I think she has. Give her a couple of years, she might be S.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think we'll have to see what projects she gets. What projects she gets attached to and immediately greenlit.
Do you have her?
She is in a film apparently coming out this year with Jacob Elordi called On Swift Horses. This
That's
looks
some
like
Oscar baity
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I think so. And
That's gonna go to 200 theaters max.
yeah. She's also in production on a film, pre-production on a film about Carl Sagan and his wife Anne Druyan. She's in that with Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's another Oscar baity thing, probably.
yeah, I would say so. And so, like I said, I'm waiting to see what else she's in.
Exactly. Yeah. I think for a lot of these actors, it's easier to map their trajectory when we can more clearly say, oh, they have something big coming. It is possible that something with Andrew Garfield then gets a little bit more buzz to bring her maybe to an Oscar nomination of some kind. I think that the good thing about her is that she can operate in both these spaces, and I hope that she does. In terms of, I'd like to see her get an Oscar nomination eventually, but I'd also like to see her be a lead in an action series or something,
or a drama series, or a drama movie. She can do all that. Like, she doesn't need to be the action girl.
No, that's true.
She can be a bit maneuverable. But like a couple of these people, if we were doing upper or lower tier, I'd have to put her lower A because I just don't see the stepping stones for her going
Fair enough.
ahead.
Yeah.
And maybe it's for a lack of them being there.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of similar to like Lupita Nyong'o. Like,
Sure.
where are these
Yeah, that's a good
projects where
point.
they're attached and they're in production or something like
Wh-
that?
Which is interesting because we made this video to talk about how this movie impacts their career. In both those cases, it is a big get for them to be the lead or co-lead in. I mean, in actually both those situations, they are the lead of their movies.
Yeah, the main character.
But to not have those next stepping stones, even though it's supposed to be the movie, the stepping stones are very important for the trajectory.
And Tucker, do you think there's any coincidence that both these people that we're talking about are women in Hollywood? Certainly not. Certainly not.
Yeah, I actually don't think we've really talked about any female actresses today that have major roles coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't look for Lively, but nothing comes to mind. No. Same for, I mean, Monroe has the It Follows sequel. Kaylee Spaney has Knives Out.
Yeah. But let's continue.
Let's continue.
To Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, that's right.
Who was the star of The Fall Guy earlier this year. And this is interesting because we do have some Gosling stepping stones. We know a few things that he's scheduled to be in.
Let me pull these up.
Including the one that I just read the fucking book for that I can't remember.
Oh, Project Artemis.
Project Artemis. Yes.
Project Artemis or Hail Mary. Project Hail Mary.
Hail Mary.
Project Artemis is a different.
No, was Fly Me to the Moon.
Sorry. Artemis is a different book by Andy Weir as well.
But Project Artemis was what Fly Me to the Moon was called before.
Correct. But Ryan Gosling is going to be in Project Hail Mary.
Yes.
Oh boy! All right.
Which is going to be a big blockbustery thing next year.
Yeah, it's March, so I don't know how much confidence that studio has in it. But
March is a totally fine season for blockbuster movies right now.
That's true. I mean, but also I look at The Fall Guy and they're like, that was supposed to be March and they moved it to May. They had maybe a little bit too much confidence in there. But also, hey, he is in this Margot Robbie Ocean's 11 film.
Oh, that's another big one.
I hope so. God, I hope.
And what's interesting about Ryan Gosling is he's continuing his track record. I think that this is B, because this movie not being big off of his name, I think does hurt him in terms of being like a big box office draw. This was, I think, a totally fine movie. I think that he's totally fine in it.
Yeah.
But this is not a smash hit. And it does not build his career.
They were hoping for a smash hit off of Barbie, and the general reception is exactly what you said. It's like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's
and how to do, you're fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not what they wanted out of this. It's probably not what Gosling wanted. So, I think he's got a little bit more of a mountain to climb to get to maybe like an A or an S, for example. I think he has to. Yeah, if Hail Mary is a big success, if people go out to see that, or most likely probably this Margot Robbie reteaming, I think that'll be cool too.
Definitely, and the potential of returning as Ken, which is going to happen eventually.
Yeah, whether it be in live action or animated format.
Well, what's interesting about thinking about tracking this these ups and downs is we're really talking about just a specific moment
Mhm.
about where he came from, what happened this summer specifically, and
Uh-huh.
then what the stepping stones are going forward for the rest of the trajectory. If we had done this end of last summer,
He'd be an S.
he'd be an S. But the Fall Guy being a middling success at best,
Mm-hmm.
it is B. Maybe this just shows like the quality and reception of the movie is really ultimately what's most important.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think we also have to say the same thing about Emily Blunt.
I think so too. She's got. I'm looking at her upcoming projects here. She's in the Spielberg movie, this new Spielberg movie.
Oh, the
coming out.
Aliens one.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. That's a big
And
deal.
she's in that A24 Dwayne the Rock Johnson movie, The
Oh.
Smashing Machine. So she's got a couple more
Yeah.
projects, but we'll set those aside.
And I like that she's operating in both spheres.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I will set those aside for now and talk about sort of maybe echoing the same things as like she was coming off of Oppenheimer last
Mhm.
summer, and that was the big deal during the Oscars, especially. They were like, "Hey, it's me and Emily Blunt. Hey, it's me and Ryan Gosling. We're in this movie coming
Yes.
out. It's fun. It's actiony. Go see it. It's a summer movie now."
Didn't work.
And it didn't really work.
No.
It didn't really
And
work.
I think that for the both of them, them being the leads of this film, I think unfortunately does prove that they, for audiences, work best as filling a supporting cast with cool names you
Mhm.
recognize, not you're going to the theater to see them, which is not true for me, but also I will see anything, so it's not
Yes.
really a big mark,
Mhm.
but this is just a stay in the course thing. I'm like,
Yep.
she was a lead in a summer blockbuster. That's pretty cool for her.
I think
But-
I think for both her and Gosling, it's a matter of Oppenheimer and Barbie did so much, and that the dip will potentially even out. So
Hopefully,
that's why
yeah.
I want them in B. I think.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a couple of fellas from the Bike Riders,
Ooh.
Austin Butler and Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Austin Butler, interesting. I think that he is one of the up and coming names,
Yes.
but unlike Glenn Powell,
Mhm.
unlike Daisy Edgar Jones, unlike Sydney Sweeney, unlike the other crop of his age actors around him,
Mhm.
he was not able to buoy this movie.
No, he was not.
And I
No,
think
he
that
was
means
not.
that this is a mark on his
yeah,
career,
a little
because
bit, yeah.
if he was coming off of being amazing in Elvis and that movie doing
Coming
amazing,
off of Elvis, and then earlier this year, people were sort of excited about him in Dune, but then
that's interesting.
It's,
Yeah,
it's heavy makeup, and he's like, that's more Timothy's thing. It's like, oh, and Austin Butler was doing some really wacky shit in that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Didn't he
but-
look crazy?
it is Elvis being cast in Dune and then
Mhm.
being great in Dune, and people
Yes.
talking about him in Dune. I
Yes.
think a good amount that would have lead like, oh, he's actually the star in an upcoming movie.
Mhm.
You'd expect that to help get this a little more traction, and it probably did, but
Yeah.
it didn't get enough traction.
I think that ultimately what it comes down to is The Bike Riders a movie of that much consequence?
No, which is why I was telling you we maybe shouldn't put this movie on here. But
Hey, listen. It was supposed to come out last September anyway, so maybe maybe I'm a bit more sympathetic to that in the moment right
Yeah.
now, but it's a little too late, I would say, right now. So for him, it doesn't hurt.
no, you're right. Being a star in
Mhm.
a movie
Oh.
does help him build up his notoriety.
Yeah, he was good in it.
Yeah, I didn't see. That's the first one we talked about today. I didn't see.
Sure.
Actually, the only one today that we're talking about that I didn't see.
Uh-huh. What about Harold and the Purple Crayon?
That's a great fucking. I feel like I saw that.
Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
I hit my head really hard on the
Yeah,
ground
yeah,
the other day. But yeah, I'm fine with B, and
Yeah.
you did see the movie, so I'll let you speak a little more authoritatively towards this.
Mhm.
What do you think about Tom Hardy for this?
Ooh,
Now it's interesting that we put him on here.
Mhm.
As far as I know, he's more of a supporting character in that
it's
movie.
it's kind of a triptych of him, Comer, and Hardy, but Butler and Hardy are the two big names, and
Yeah.
they're the male leads. They are the Bike Riders
Sure.
after all. Hardy, I would say Hardy probably fares a little bit better out of this.
Okay.
Not like a tier above, but just generally like Hardy is a bigger name. He has
Of course.
he's not as young of a star. He has Venom as well coming
Yeah, of
out
course.
this year. And I think he's in a like Nick Cage sort of area where like he's not necessarily a household name. He's just a guy who kind of operates in his own space a little bit. He's
Nicolas
not,
Cage is a household name.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, but Tom Hardy is not necessarily a household name. But he's always gonna do what he wants to do. He's not
Yeah.
like I need to beat the next Will Smith.
No, yeah.
I don't think he wants that.
He's
and
just a very successful actor.
I think so too.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. So put him in B.
B. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Put him in B with Butler. Butler and
Next up we have
Barty.
Channing Tatum, and Channing Tatum, I think you can also say the same sort of thing about is he just kind of does what he wants now, and people like him when he's in things, but he's not a draw. He's a star, but he's not a big star.
People like him.
Oh, of course. Anytime I see Channing Tatum, I'm very happy.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is this phase of Channing's career, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a while, he did look like he was going to be kind of a guy, a big Hollywood guy. He was in some action movies. He was in some comedy movies. He was doing this and that. And then it just didn't really materialize. Like, he was doing a Magic Mike, and he was in 21 Jump Street. And now what's he? He's like a guy who will do cameos in your movie?
Yeah, well, he's interesting because he's actually the only one we're talking about today with 3 summer appearances. Lead in
Fly Me to the Moon.
Supporting cameo character in Deadpool and Wolverine, and in Blink Twice, come out soon. And that movie's just
a movie of not much consequence.
Yeah. But you're right. He's operating in an interesting era where he's kind of a more cameo guy. Cameo in Bullet Train, cameo in Free Guy. But also a couple years ago, lead in The Lost City, lead in Dog, in Dog. But none of this is big.
And those movies did well, and so obviously we're talking
and lead
about
in Magic Mike's Last Dance last year.
Exactly. And so
he's just a working actor.
He's a working actor, and so do we put him in the same tier as his co-star Scarlett Johansson? Is my question.
Which is C.
Does Fly Me to the Moon hurt a little bit? I think it might.
Well, I think it hurts her more than him because what you were saying earlier, she has more to fall. She's the draw name of this. She's one of the most highest paid actors of the 2010s, and the fact that she was leading this would be why they probably sold this movie for and spent $100 million on it. They didn't spend $100 million on it because Channing Tatum is in it. It was like,
they actually wanted Chris Evans to be in it. For initially,
interesting, yeah. But this is the kind of, I mean, budget wise, it's out of the league that he usually operates in.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing that I expect from Channing Tatum. It's like a movie that makes $30-40 million.
See, I think that's where our mindsets differ a little bit on Channing Tatum. Because to me, Fly Me to the Moon smelled a little bit like him trying to, climb the ladder a little bit. So I think it hurts both of them in different regards.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we can put him in C. That's fine.
We'll put him in C.
Next up is Mia Goth, who we're putting here for Maxine. Maxine, a financially successful movie because it was very, very cheap to make, but not one that was particularly well received by its target audience.
Right.
You and me, particularly, thought that it was a very underwhelming end to the X trilogy, which on the whole we really like. And Mia Goth, what's your argument for this? Because this is definitely the smallest movie we're talking about. Well, actually, no. We still have another one coming up.
Yeah, we have another. This is our Scream Queen, if you will.
Our Scream Monarchs.
Yes. And with Mia Goth, I think that Maxine needed to be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
For her to be on a good trajectory.
Well,
is she on a bad trajectory right now? I wouldn't say so.
I don't think.
But also, I don't think she's where. If I were a studio exec, if I were an A24 exec, maybe wanting to put her in other movies, or if I were Mia Goth's agent, for example, I would want her to be on a better trajectory coming out of Maxine than she is right now.
Well, that I agree. I agree from a reception point of view.
Yeah.
But that's specifically like Rotten Tomatoes and critical reception. No one is necessarily saying she was bad in this, and also this was a much bigger movie financially and wider theatrical distribution than the other two movies were. I mean, this grossed what, like twice what the other two combined did?
Yeah, I mean, it was in less theaters, but also I have to double back on who's talking about this. Like you say it was a critical reception, but like this movie is fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not like critics didn't like it.
That's a good point. We just didn't like it.
We just didn't like it.
It's tainting our perception.
But like, I think it's the issue of Longlegs coming along a week later and chomping up that indie horror, that horror talking point thing that Maxine probably wanted to occupy a little bit. So yeah, I don't think it's. Is it a hurt? Let me look at her upcoming projects.
And here's the thing. I don't think it is because this movie made money. It made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And for the series, it made a bunch of money compared to Pearl and X.
Yeah.
And that's we got to think about budgets. The reason we're saying that Fly Me to the Moon hurt their careers and it puts them in C is because what that movie was intended to do, it did not do.
Yeah.
Maxine,
that's fair.
it really did what it was supposed to do. Now, it wasn't what Longlegs did.
No, I would say it wasn't even what Pearl and X did
Sure.
in terms of like being a more of a sensation.
Yeah, it's a talking point sensation, but financially, this proves that she is a draw. She is a star.
She is a star. I think it's just the thing of, and we've been sort of like jumping between all these points with each star that we talk about. It's a mix of all those elements, and I'm fine with putting Mia Goth in B.
I think B is as high as you go.
I think so. She's also in Blade coming out. Now that's the one that's gonna hurt. That's the one's gonna sting.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein. Which Frankenstein is that? Is that the Del Toro Frankenstein? It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's two big roles, frankly.
Two big roles.
Two of the bigger roles that she's had.
Blade sounds a little bit to me like it might be a Madam Web situation where I think that hurts all the actors in it. But
maybe.
Anyway.
Next up,
the Heart Renaissance.
The reason I said our Scream Monarchs because we do have a king.
Yes.
Scream King horror movie Trap. It's not really a horror movie.
It's more of a thriller.
Josh Hartnett is up next as star of Trap. I don't think you can go more than B, frankly.
Oh, come on. Let's be nice to Josh.
Yeah, but like what I guess him being the star of this movie that is doing fine financially, especially for its budget and for the expectations of what an M. Night Shyamalan movie is going to do. But the area where it is a little more successful is that it is something that's being talked about on social media quite a bit.
It's a B.
Yeah.
He's a B.
But he's not. We can't put the same tier as Chris Pratt, Tanner. We can't
Why
do that.
not? Why not?
We can't do that.
Oh
my god.
He's a B. Like unlike Josh, this is it's just a solid like stepping stone for him. But I think again, he was an Oppenheimer last year too.
That's a great point.
I want to see a bit more. I want to see a bit more stepping stones for him. I think it's a very very good performance from him.
Yeah, of course.
That has a little bit of notoriety and is getting some buzz online. People are big fans of him in this performance, or they hate the movie altogether. Like I think it's either one or the other. So B is fine by me. Yes.
We're wrapping things up, and here's the smallest movie this summer we're talking about
here.
Because we just want to talk about Hunter Schafer and the trajectory of her career and her being the star of Cuckoo. Whoa.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I was trying to do a cuckoo noise. Her first starring role in film. How does it? I think this is all about scale, baby.
Yeah.
I think it's all about scale. Is her trajectory having this being her first? Oh, I see. Having this be her first starring role. Where does it land her right now in terms of how this movie's being received a little bit?
Well, I just don't think it's being received. I don't think anyone cares. And I think that's a big unfortunate mark. Not that she's not a great actress, and not that I won't go see whatever she's in, but this movie's not making much money. Again, Longlegs sucked even all the neon.
That's true. That's fair.
That noble gas.
People are still talking about Longlegs probably more than they're talking about Cuckoo.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
And so listen, Hunter Schafer, she's a fave in my heart.
Yeah, of course.
She's a film Twitter fave.
Yeah.
I think she's a B.
Yeah, I think B. Well, because
out the gate for Hunter Schafer, thumbs up. Not much more than that.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because this movie's also not like a big failure or anything. It was just critically received well. It's doing kind of what it needs to do financially. I think you probably expect a little more from it. Again, I think that's still just like Longlegs taking away the energy from a movie like this. But yeah, B for her. Next up, we're gonna do Steve Carell. And Steve Carell, Tanner.
Yes.
2 big movies this summer.
2 big ones.
Despicable Me 4 and If.
He's a fucking cameo. Oh, I guess he's more than a cameo.
Oh, he's
blue.
He's the big purple.
He's
guy.
blue. Who's purple?
Yes, it's funny.
It's kind of funny.
I didn't see it. Steve Carell. This is very much a continuation trajectory sort of thing. He's cashing the check. I think we both agreed that in Despicable Me 4, this applies to basically the entire voice cast, but they're all just like. They're just throwing in the towel. It's like, well, we're just doing it because
phoning it in. They might literally be doing their lines over the phone.
It's possible.
Who's to say? Is there an argument? Not one that I would make, but is there an argument for the fact that he's still an A? Is the fact that it's like doing his thing?
It's a trajectory thing, though, right?
Yeah.
Look at his upcoming projects.
Yeah.
He has he's in the DGG movie, right? Is he the David Gordon Green?
No, that's Ben Stiller.
Oh, Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that's fair enough. But I don't really know what else he's doing.
Yeah, he's not doing a whole lot. I think he's just chilling at home now. He's just being a guy at home. Yeah, I don't know any of these movies
Okay.
or series is
Yeah,
coming out.
I think this is an interesting one where actually let's put him in the same category as Hugh Jackman, where it's
Mm.
like this is an amazingly iconic role that he gets paid very well for,
Uh-huh.
and he does a good job at.
Yes.
He's a good voice actor as Gru. It's a weird voice, and he
Mhm.
nails it. But this is basically the only thing he's doing.
Yeah.
And that means that his trajectory is as long as this series and this character is continuing,
Mhm.
he will have recurring checks and he will have recurring notoriety.
Mhm.
But he doesn't care to branch out. He just got paid
Can I
like
say,
$15
though,
million dollars.
Can I maybe make this argument? Well, maybe not an argument. I just want to throw this out there. Just a monkey wrench, okay? C, because it's starting to feel a little lazy.
Sure, for him or for Illumination.
Both, but I
Yeah.
mean we're talking about him and his star
Yeah,
power.
sure.
But like, it's starting to feel a little rote from him. It's like
Mhm.
Steve Carell was like one of the biggest comedic voices in Hollywood. You know, fast forward or rewind 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And now what's he doing? Oh, he's like laying on his couch doing Gru voice for $10 million a pop.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh-huh.
Well,
We don't have to. I just want to say I like how I posited an argument for A and I posited an argument for C.
yeah. So
Um,
I think you have to go B because
Yeah.
this really doesn't hurt him as a draw.
No.
It doesn't hurt him as a star. The movie made a lot of fucking money, Tanner,
Did it?
and it's going to continue making a lot of money.
Tucker, did this next movie make a lot of money too?
Next up, we're going to be talking about the two of the
The
big-
new stars of
new stars.
Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2. What, ninth highest grossing movie of all time or something like this
I
point?
think
Or still 10?
I think it's still 10.
Okay.
It might be 9
Um,
soon. Who's to say?
But we're going to be talking about My Hawk and Io Debris.
Uh-huh.
And this is interesting because we wanted to talk about them again, trajectory.
Mhm.
I fought valiantly for my queens
Yes.
to be included on this list because this is both their obviously first time in $1 billion picture,
Mhm.
and they were the ones that were most prominently put forward as these are the big new fun characters
Yes.
in this movie, and it made way more money than anyone was fucking expecting it to.
Yeah, I mean, people were expecting this to be a huge hit, but like to this degree, I
Yeah.
don't know. And Tucker,
And they both had good trajectories before this.
That's
Io
true.
Debris more so than
More
Maya
so.
Hawk.
mostly
but
because she's
this-
Io Debrie's a fucking workhorse. What was it? Last year she was in 9 movies and TV shows.
Damn.
Yeah.
But Io Debris I think is A.
Here's my Tucker, and this may be my voice actor sort of bias.
Yeah.
Okay. I just don't know. I just don't know about that. I just don't know if Hollywood executives are like, well, Io and Maya were in Inside Out 2, and that's what all the kids went to that movie for. No, I know, and we talked about this already, so
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there for the video. We don't need to rehash
Well,
this.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is I think we can talk about all 3 of the points for Io Debri's well, as we talk about it for this video,
Mm.
the points for her trajectory, coming off a major year last year, continue that momentum into this year,
Yeah.
big season of The Bear,
Yep.
10th highest grossing movie of all time,
Yep.
and booked for fucking 20 projects in the future. Like,
Yes.
I don't think there's any argument that she's not A right now. She's
Yeah.
desirable talent, and this makes her way more desirable.
And
She's a
desirable-
critically acclaimed.
I think desirable for different projects too. Like, well,
Of course.
because this is our first time. Oh no, I guess she was a voice in Spider-Verse too, but like,
Sure, but barely.
I mean, she's also not a big part in Inside Out 2. Bigger than in Spider-Verse, but also like
yeah.
joy and anxiety are the big.
Oh no,
big
that's
roles.
a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like, I liked Io. I thought she was funny
Yeah.
whenever she has lines in Inside Out 2, but there's frankly not that many of them,
No.
and not enough for my liking anyway. So I think that you can put both of them in A. So we talked about Io a little bit. We talked about Maya. It's the same situation for both of them.
Yeah.
Where
This is definitely a big help for
Yeah.
Maya Hawke's career. She is the takeaway character from the 10th highest grossing movie of all time.
she is.
And she does a very good job. She's
She
certainly
does.
the one that people talk about the most coming out of this movie. The interesting thing is she's still a much smaller star in terms of
Mhm.
how many projects she's being booked for than anyone else in this top.
Io's got The Bear. Maya Hawke got Stranger Things. They both got these contractual agreements they got to hold up to, and yeah. What I will say though is that, because this happened with Inside Out 2. I don't think when they make Inside Out 3,
Yeah.
well, let's
Yes.
not beat around the bush here, that Maya Hawke will probably stay on, but Iowa Debris might get cut if necessary, like what happened with Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling.
Why though?
What do you mean?
Because she would cost too much.
Because what happened with Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling is that either they asked for too much money or they were busy with other projects, and so Picture was like, all right, fuck you, we don't need you.
Sure, that's fair enough, but I think that her star's only going to grow over the next couple of years.
True.
And if we're 5 years from now and she's got like won even more Emmys and is even more voice acting, this is going to help both of them get a lot of voice acting roles because they both do like very cartoony, ridiculous voices in this, and they're great.
That's exactly what I meant when I said help them with other projects. It's like this opens the door for animated stuff for them, much in the way that, we might be talking about them in a year or two when they're like, oh yeah, they were in this movie this summer, and then they also have a Transformers movie or a Wild Robot coming out this fall or whatever, similar to some of the other bigger, older movie stars that we've done on this list already.
Yep. And Tanner.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all she wrote. Wait a second.
We did it. Thank you very much, everyone. This is your video. Why am I fucking?
Oh, thank you. No problem. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Let us know what you thought of this sort of video format.
Yeah.
I really like doing this. I think we had some interesting discussion about star power in Hollywood in the modern era, but I want to hear your thoughts as well. Is there anyone that we put too high, too low? Anyone that you think is on fraud watch for being a movie star? Let us know. And also, if you want to talk about
Zachary
Levi. Well, everyone recognizes he's on fraud watch. If you want to talk about any of these topics, movies, video games, whatever, with us, we have a Discord server. Hey, that link's in the description. Join that up. It's a good time. But otherwise, we'll see you next time for hopefully more videos like this one. Bye-bye.